right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon reviews. Two games this week. First up is among the longest titles we've ever had on the program. Uh, it's there's a reason for it because it's called Super Blackjack Battle 2 Turbo Edition: The Card Warriors. And if you haven't surmised from that title, it's a blackjack parody of Street Fighter 2. Insert shrug here.
Yeah. Like, there's a whole, when you load up the game, there's a whole animation that's similar to Street Fighter 2. But there's no way to show that on stream without me closing the game, and I don't feel like doing that.
Yeah. Actually, the animation is from Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Like, that's the specific one that they're going for, because it's the Akuma animation, you know, and I think he and Ryu are ready to get throwing down with the Hadoukens. You know, it shows up in parody quite a bit. Just, and yeah, so parody is kind of the name of the game here, as it's aping a lot of visual signifiers from the various Street Fighter 2 incarnations. Like, but it only goes so far, curiously enough. Like, the characters. Like the characters.
I mean, there's still a diverse cast of characters from different countries all over the world, but you don't get as much of them, and I mean, you don't get as much character building of them, and they're also pretty flat.
It's also, they're not really all that connected to, you know, like their Street Fighter incarnations. If they are, like, you can guess that, you know, Japanese girl is obviously being based off of Chun-Li. You know, the blonde girl is kind of Cammy, and so on and so forth. But, you know,
I guess, but there's not even much.
Yeah, it's like, it's like they're not that much of a parody. Is kind of my point. It's a bit strange.
Yeah, it's not very aggressive on its being like Street Fighter 2, aside from the set dressing of,
yeah,
hey, it's an international tournament of card people.
Yeah, and like, there's some flat out missing information. We were talking about this in the pre-show, but there's not a lot of information of who you're playing as. You know, I mean, you know, fighters are often mocked for their story, but there's usually a story, a universe, and character bios to, you know, flesh out who you're playing as just a little.
Yeah, and in Street Fighter, I mean, granted, Street Fighter, it's hard to say because there have been so many games that it sort of builds up, but there's even in the first one, I think on like the arcade games, you get like on the attract mode, they'd have short profiles of the different characters that probably have more. I mean, you get a little bit on the select screen, but not much.
Yeah, I'm like, and if that's something that happens in like the rolling, if there's like a rolling attract mode, that, you know, there's no indication that, like, the only sorts of character or plot that you get are the post-fight taunts and the endings. Like,
which is something.
It's something, but it's pretty thin, even for something like this. Now, but, you know, and quite frankly, this game has a lot of problems. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, it's not broken, but I mean,
it's not broken, but it's really simple, and there's not much to it.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, it is Blackjack. Blackjack is a pretty simple game in terms of casino game.
It's one of the least broken, one of the least favor of the house casino games, which is one of the reasons why it's fairly popular in video games.
Right. but it's also, you draw 2 cards, you draw more cards, and you try not to go over 21. That's the basics there. There is more to it, but I'm not going to go through a step-by-step explanation of the particulars of Blackjack. It's like, there are a lot of problems with releasing a game like this in the year of 2017. And, a bit of a history lesson, because games like this, they're among the oldest subsets of games in gaming. For example, like the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision had Blackjack simulators. And those were a fairly bigger deal because simulating casino games was much more of a novelty in, say, 1979 than they are today, or even like 20 years ago. And another problem is the actual game of Blackjack is hampered by its own premise. Okay, let me explain here. Super Blackjack Battle 2 Turbo: The Card Warriors is a direct/indirect parody of Street Fighter 2, which is a one-on-one fighting game, and that's what you get here. You get a one-on-one Blackjack battle, or I guess technically it's a you versus another combatant and the house.
Yeah, Blackjack is meant to be a game of a lot of people against the house, usually, and this is it's you and one other person against the house, and there's not really any interaction between you and your other person. You start every game with $1,000. One game I got down to $150 at the end of the 10-round limit, and I won because the other guy had lost worse.
Yeah.
And the AI...
There's no actual way. I mean, you have a taunt button that may tweak the opponent's AI a little bit, but that's all there is for interacting with the person you are flying across the world to play against.
Yeah, it's fairly dry for what it's going for.
Yeah, I was expecting there to be super moves of some sort.
Same.
Yeah, it doesn't really ape the fighting mechanics or anything like that. It's got some of the post and pre-match stuff, but like, the actual Blackjack is just Blackjack. And that's another problem. I've kind of been alluding to this, but it's 2017. You're being asked to pay money for this game, and we'll get into the price, which is his own fucking problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was kind of on board with this game until you told me what the price was, honestly.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's a Blackjack game. You can go play, you can play online Blackjack games. You can play Blackjack games for free. Like, these days, you can not just on your computer, but like your mobile device. Card games are pretty common. And that's another thing. Usually, if like Blackjack is being sold for money these days, it's in a bigger package. Like,
you're actually paying real money to play.
Paying real money to play Blackjack online is a whole other kettle of fish, because
which is illegal in some places, but yes.
Yeah, that's because that's actual gambling.
Right.
But my point is, even like as far back as the NES, games like Casino Kid, or the really, really underrated DS classic Clubhouse games. Blackjack is going to be one game of many. Right alongside other card games like poker, baccarat, and so on and so forth, to stuff like roulettes. It's usually coming in a bigger package because most people realize that that just having the one game there is going to be incredibly limiting. And like I said, if people just want blackjack, they can find a simple search on Google, gives blackjack on MSN Games.
Yeah, and this is literally a game that blackjack has been cracked. You can look at a table and say that'll tell you what the best play in any given situation is.
Yeah. So, and it's in the technical details, it doesn't really do anything wrong. It plays blackjack, and I'm and there are 2 or 3 phases. There's a single player, well, actually there are foremost. There's the single player campaign. There's the quick game. You just go in and play a game of blackjack. Mm-hmm. And I suppose what the real meat is supposed to be is the ranked stuff. It's got a ranking feature where you either play the computer or you can play, or there is a multiplayer component. You can play another player, and get on the rankings, the leaderboards. I'm and I guess some people will care about this. Honestly,
I mean, there are other ways to play blackjack competitively. There are probably even other ways to play blackjack competitively for money.
Yeah, I'm it's still not very engaging. We didn't even try out the multiplayer mode. We were all so bored from the single player stuff. And once again, it's only 2 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be more fun probably if you could have 4 dudes.
Yeah, I'm regular blackjack allows for 4 people to play at once. I think in going over this review, that's the most frustrating thing about this. It's the game is literally hamstrung by its own premise.
Yeah, it needs to be either more blackjack or more fighting parody.
Well, it's looking at the Steam page, it does have an option for 4-player blackjack, but I don't know how to enable it.
It's probably it's only in the online version, so.
Yeah, it might be in the online multiplayer. Okay, so given that the case, okay, that does make the package a little better, but it's
you still have to find 4 people who'd be willing to pay the price for this game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's kind of one of the other issues. It's probably the biggest issue: the price. This game is being sold for $12. I'm going to repeat that.
Yeah, I assumed this was a $5 game, and in that level, I was on board with it. For more than twice that, not so much.
Yeah, I'm not even joking here. They're asking $12 for this game, and I don't even know how they came to the conclusion. I mean, was it all the sprite work? Was it all, did they think the presentation was that attractive? Because
it does look pretty decent in an SNES-y way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or arcade game of that era.
Yeah. And it's.
But the biggest issue for that price, there's nothing to make you want to come back unless you're really into blackjack. But again, you could still find better options for free.
Well, it's here's the other thing. Yeah, here we go. There is online multiplayer up to 4 people. So, sorry for the mistake there. It's just the regular package is all 2-player stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to play multiplayer blackjack, there are probably better ways to do that. If you want to do it single player for the characters and the story, I mean, sure, that's not a terrible idea, but I don't think it's worth that much.
No, it's not worth $12. You could you could make the argument that it might be worth $5, but we kind of haven't gotten into the actual. Well, another one of the biggest problems is the AI. Now, granted, that's mitigated in, say, 4-player online multiplayer, but in terms of the basic package, your AI opponents are pretty terrible across the board.
I mean, they don't always make the best plays. I do think that there's an attempt to have different characters have different AI, because I've noticed that some people will be a lot more aggressive than others, but other than that,
it's pretty wonky.
yeah, and ultimately it comes down to the easiest way to win in this game is just to let your opponent screw up, which they will sometimes do.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, if they don't screw up enough, you have to actually think about maybe betting a little bit more so that you do better than them. Because remember, it's entirely possible to quote unquote win this game when you lose almost $1,000 on every match, as long as the opponent loses more.
Yeah. It's also sometimes they'll go big and they'll win. And in that case, just like go all in, because if you win, then more times than not, you pretty much won the hand.
And in single player mode, there's actually no downside to losing. You just get to basically you get the arcade continue screen, and you just click a button and say, yes, I would like to try that match over again with all of my progress from previous matches still. I mean, it's not hard to find your what's the name? It's not hard to see the ending or the end battle taunts for every character if you want to.
Yeah, it's just I don't think anyone on staff was interested. I think I played the most, really. Like
I'm a little bit interested, but not that interested.
Yeah,
you know?
I was slightly interested, but
I'm interested enough to play through it maybe a couple times.
Yeah,
But like, if this had like special moves and more flair to it, then maybe. But
Even,
as
like,
it is now,
even like graphics of special moves, the closest thing to a special move is the taunt, and I'm still not even 100% sure that does anything.
I'm like, yeah. Like I said, I'm like the sound and music is there.
Not as diverse as the music in Street Fighter, which is a problem.
Yeah, I'm like, because another thing, Street Fighter has some pretty iconic music. I'm like, granted, and I'm like, this is definitely much more generic casino music. Like, it's there and it fits the country.
The different areas do have different music,
but
it's not even all. I didn't even notice that at first.
Yeah, I'm like, well, and honestly, I'm running out of things to say about this because, you know, at the core here, it's an overpriced blackjack simulator with some really nice art.
I mean, there's some neat stuff like with finding out, like if you have the characters who, like there's stuff like how you find out some characters might secretly be related or get married after the game or whatever, but
I'm like,
you don't know really why.
yeah.
No.
Screw you guys. I'm going to make my own game. It's going to have blackjack and hookers. You know what? Forget the blackjack and hookers. Screw the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, this game does have a lack of hookers for Bender standards.
I'm like, that's probably a ratings thing.
Probably.
yeah.
Like, or it could be in one of the endings. Like,
Yeah, maybe. We do have a French guy. No offense to our French listeners.
there. Okay.
On that note,
Yeah, it's like, I think I'm about to do it for Super Blackjack here. Like, I'm actually pretty impressed with how much we were able to talk about since
Since it's just a blackjack game, yeah.
Yeah. But managed. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah, and if it's not clear, you know, it's like not recommended.
If you get it on really, really steep sale, like less than $5, maybe check it out.
Also worth noting, all copies were provided by the publisher, Head Up Games.
Yeah. I
Um,
forgot to put that in. I'm sorry.
I didn't.
Thank you for that.
No. I do my job. Anyway, so that'll about do it for this review. Be sure to tune in. I don't know. It's always hard to tell how to time these breaks. Sometimes they last longer than others, but I'd say within at the most half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be reviewing our second game of the week, Desync, latest release from Adult Swim Games. It's it's an FPS with a very synthwave aesthetic. For those who don't know what that is, if you played the game like Hotline Miami or probably a more direct comparison, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, there you go. We'll get into that game in a little bit. And until such time, I wish you good gaming.